Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you game 1 out of 2 games between Yoda and Pathology in round 5 of the second European tournament. Today we are going to be seeing Colleville, and on the Allied side Yoda has chosen the 2nd Infantry, and on the Axis side Pathology has chosen the 17th SS-Panzergrenadiers. Now this is actually quite an even matchup. You can see how both divisions have very similar income, with the 17th SS only having 5 more in Phase B, and the 2nd Infantry only having 5 more in Phase C. Now both divisions tend to have their power spikes in Phase B, so that will be another thing that makes them more even. But in the early game will really be the difference, because the 2nd Infantry can bring in M4s, and that's something that can counter the play of the 17th SS quite nicely. It really does depend how the 17th SS plays around the 3-star Stug that they should have access to. Also, if the Pak 38s are used appropriately, then they can also be used to ambush those M4s and clean those up in the early game. So we can see that Pathology is going to be placing down the Stug 3 early on. I think this is a pretty important choice against the 2nd Infantry in particular. Now the 2nd Infantry can pick you off with a M5 gun, so that's something that you will need to be careful of if you bring in a Stug 3 to this matchup. But as long as there's plenty of recon on the field, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now accompanying those on the bottom side, that's going to be multiple units of Stormtroop, a unit that I haven't yet mentioned, but can be very good in defensive positions in my opinion. Now it's funny because Stormtroop in general are supposed to be used aggressively. That's like the whole idea of the squad in real life. But in this game I feel like they work more defensively because you can put them in buildings, for example, or in tree lines, keep them on return fire, and then as soon as like a squad comes into range you absolutely demolish them. Whereas if you are aggressive and you're trying to push across open ground, they get picked off very easily, and that is something that is quite detrimental to the squad. So on this bottom side it's also going to be some command following those up with some recon and an IG-18. Then further up we see a unit of Panzergrenadiers, a unit of Stormtroop and a Pak 38 with the Stug 3. And then there's another Panzergrenadier and the Pak 38 on the top side. Over on Yoda's side of things, he will have all of the Ranger units at his disposal, Ranger Assaults, Ranger Supports, also the Ranger Marauders. And you can see he does have some Ranger Marauders here with a couple of rifle squads, and then the Ranger Leader and the Ranger 3rd Decal. And there's also going to be what looks like the 120mm mortar. Then further up we have the rifle squad, and on the top side it's going to be the Ranger Marauders, rifles, what looks like an M5 gun, the rifles, and then a Ranger Leader. So some quite scary units that you're just bringing in here. No M4 to be seen, but does have a couple of AT guns and a 120mm mortar, which can definitely deal a lot of damage to the fire support weapons that Pathology has. And the M5 gun may be able to find the kill onto the Stug 3, which would be certainly a good start for Yoda in this matchup. We'll be underway shortly. Both these players look to be relatively evenly spread. I'm just curious as to how much effort Yoda puts into this bottom side engagement, because the Ranger Assault should be able to cut through the Stormtroop quite nicely at close range, because the flamethrowers will just pin them down, and since they're only 5-man squads it might even kill them off very quickly as well. There is a few units heading down to this bottom side. You can see all of the units on both sides heading to their locations, both players using the fast move and unload at position command. The fast move and unload command, they're shift queuing that. Basically what they're doing is they're pressing F, I think is a default command for fast move, and then they're holding shift and pressing U so that they unload automatically when they get to the position they have specified, rather than using Y, which is the unload at position command, which can be a little bit unreliable sometimes. So there you go. IG-18 has unloaded quite early on the bottom side. I'm interested to see that position there. Very defensive setup from Pathology, but it does work out quite well for these Stormtroop. If the Stormtroop sit here like here and here, then any units that get close and into the 100-meter range, they break through the tree lines, will get absolutely demolished, especially when they're 2-star veterancy alongside the Panzergrenadier. So this could be actually a really nice setup if he kind of baits Yoda into an aggressive play on the bottom side. But just in general, it looks as though more ground will be falling in favour of Yoda early on, maybe just slightly, not too much, since you can see it's still technically 50-50 across the board. But this was indeed an M5 gun. It's going to be covering the centre road. On the top side, IG-18 Pak-38 combination. That is something quite common to see with the 17th SS, so no surprise there. Now a mortar going to be coming in to accompany things on the bottom side. Now what would be nice is if this mortar was used for smoke so that it can allow the Stosstroop to advance across the open without taking too much damage. But with this 3-star 30 cal in position, if these Stosstroop walk out of this tree line without any cover, they're going to get absolutely demolished. Oh, so this is actually a 107mm mortar, sorry, and not 120mm. I don't think there is a 120mm. This is the biggest mortar that the 2nd Infantry can get. But that was targeting the Stosstroop early on, due to the Marauders spotting those getting into position. But a very slow start to this game. We can see that there is a Bofors on the way and another Ranger Marauder. Both players just happy to leave it as is for the time being, but it's due to Pathology backing off with those units in the mid, he has given enough ground to Yoda for it to be a +1. The 81mm mortar now in position, more recon on its way. Looks like both players are just preparing for a push in one place or another. Nothing decisive early on. This Stug 3 sitting here not really doing too much. It's just hidden behind the building for the time being. Personally, I think that this heading to the bottom side would be a really nice idea to support the Stosstroop and other units pressing forwards down here. IG's going to get a shot onto those rifles though, does lose line of sight. This 81mm mortar is currently blind firing into the forest area here. Looks like Yoda assumes that there is something there due to the way that the front line is. But without the recon information, this seems like a little bit of a waste of HE ammunition. These mortars, they only get 25 shots, and generally you don't want to bring in a supply in Phase A. So wasting those shots early on is a bit unfortunate. Stosstroop, they've been caught out in the open. They're taking quite a lot of damage from these rifles. Now the rifles do have the M1 Garand and the BAR, so they do have a reasonable amount of HE at range, which is enough to, of course, take out the Stosstroop, which don't have anything to fight back with. Now the Panzergrenadiers did manage to pin down the rifles with their MGs, which is one thing that the MGs are good for, is that they can pin down squads quickly. But just in general, there's not much damage done to the rifles there, and the M5 gun's just going to demolish that Stosstroop squad. So, rifles here, are they now under fire from the mortar? I'm not entirely sure where those mortar rounds were going, but they did start to pin down the rifles. But here goes the Stosstroop. They've revealed themselves to the machine gun. That's really not good. This is really bad news. Okay. Pathology manages to get the smoke grenades down from the Stosstroop so that he can advance onto the rifles. And these rifles, are they in range of this Ranger leader? They are, so they're not going to surrender. The Stosstroop going to be trying to make use of this smoke to get up in the face of the 30 cal. Nice use of the smoke here, honestly. Just to make that ground cover, but the mortar should also be helping out in this scenario as well, because the Stosstroop only have a limited amount of grenades at the end of the day. Now, Pathology can't see this, but he's technically walking into a trap. The Range Marauders, the 30 cal, all just going to be surrounding the Stosstroop and potentially doing a lot of damage here. However, it looks like Yoda's scared of these Stosstroop. He shouldn't be. 3 squads versus 1. He could absolutely ruin that squad very, very quickly indeed. If there was 2 squads in the same position of Stosstroop, then that would be a different story entirely. But it seems as though he is just going to retreat from these troops in the meantime. Stosstroop on this side of things, they managed to surrender those rifles, maybe. Actually, I think they fell back. But these Stosstroop, they're down to 1 man. Spearthroop, they've found these rifles, allowing the IG to open up again. Flakvilling now joining the field. There's a flak fling on the top side as well. Both players really just investing in a lot of support weapons, just making their front lines as strong as possible. But 50-50 once again, as Pathology does make some ground back on this bottom side, and with the 30 cal and Ranger Marauders engaging individually, it has allowed the Stosh Troop to take both of those squads out, when otherwise these Stosh Troops should, in theory, have just been denied by the 3 squads that were initially there, and then the rifles that followed up. A lovely hit by the 107mm mortar there. Smashes those Stosh Troop. Gonna have to be careful that he doesn't hit his own rifles though. But taking those down to 1 man should allow the rifles to take them out quite easily. But losing a couple of squads, especially the 3-star Ranger Marauders and the 30 cal, was very, very sloppy in my opinion. And these rifles, they finish off that Stosh Troop. Pathology does have more infantry on the way though, and I like the way that Pathology has already got the infantry coming. I think he realizes that it's not going to be long until he does lose his infantry on this bottom side, so making sure that he has replacements is very important. Loads of Stosh Troop actually, that's going to be 4 squads of Stosh Troop coming in. And this 107mm mortar is going for the counter battery onto the 81mm. Panzergrenadier, they're going to be backing off, but they've used up all their smoke grenades, so smoke cover on this bottom side would be ideal to keep the Panzergrenadier alive. Doesn't look like it's going to happen though, as the M7DD comes in and ruins their day with the double 50 cal that they have available. And these M7DDs, they're just so awesome. It's like an absolute carnage opens up on the infantry squads, as they do have that massive cannon on the front, as well as the 250 cals on top. You can imagine just how much damage that does do to infantry. Flak-filling now getting involved with infantry engagements. Speed Troop manages to clean up. I think that was a rifle squad. 30 cal going to be taking a lot of damage from the flak-filling. Stug 3 is finally starting to move up with some forces, which is good to see. Another IG has been brought into the top side. So both players playing this very slowly indeed. Now the Stosh Troop trying to come through the tree line, engage the rifles. They're going to have to try and make up the range though onto the rifles if they want to engage. Panzergrenadiers, they're going to be smoked off on one side by the Stosh Troop, allowing them for a close range engagement here. That's really good actually, really well played by Pathology just to sort of stop this Panzergren from being hit by the rifles and the M7. But doesn't quite do the same for his Stosh Troop, so they get caught out, taken down to 3 men. 81mm mortar still trying to do work on this bottom side. Now an AT gun on its way to join the party. Now since there is no more command down here, this AT gun may suffer in the face of the M7. If it misses its first shot, the main gun plus those 250 cals will pin down the AT gun immediately. So Pathology will want to bring that in, put it on return fire, wait until the M7 gets as close as possible so he has the biggest chance possible to get the kill, and then open up. If he just fires straight away from like 500 meter range, then there's a potential he'll miss, especially with the lack of veterancy there. The Stug 3 still trying to help out. Stosh Troop trying to make ground, but being pinned down by Bofors. Rifles have been brought in to challenge those, and I think that's another AT gun brought into the same position as the other M1 gun. This Stug 3 could be in a lot of trouble if it tries to push aggressively. So yeah, very slow playstyle from both players, not really relying on armor too much, which is generally how you do make the fast pushes with divisions. Like the 2nd Infantry, I think like the M4, M7 combo can be really, really strong, but lovely shot there by the Pak 38 does take out the M7DD in one shot. Exactly what he needed to do. Removes that fire support, allows his infantry to engage Yoda's infantry much easier. Now the Stug 3, that's going to be backing off with the SBW-223. Looks like the Stosh Troop are also following that Stug 3. We've got a little group of units here that are hanging out together. Not really that effective moving that far back though. Nice positioning of this Ranger Marauder, I like that. That's going to be spotting the IG-18, probably those Panzergrens as well. Let's just have a look. Yeah, he can see those on the top side. Hitting those with something like a mortar or maybe just some artillery into the mid-game would be really good. And that's one thing that the 2nd Infantry can do very well, is that they can bring in artillery support like the xylophones and the howitzers, and those can really crush the fire support units that Pathology are using here if the recon's in the right position. So these range marauders being there is really important. But meanwhile on the bottom side, Starship not lasting too long. One of the squads is already dead, another squad's going to be trying to take on the rifles but get surrendered. These Panzergrenadiers are pinning down rifles at range, but at close range rifles do beat Panzergrenadiers. It really does depend on whether or not he can see these rifles as they come into the tree line, which he cannot. The Spear Troop not quite close enough. On the top side, Spear Troop going to be trying to engage the rifles here. IG-18 going to be moving up to help out. Now we have a guerrilla on the field. This is an interesting choice. Not often you see these at the moment because they are quite expensive for what they do. 1,000 meter range with 27 HE. Yes, they can absolutely demolish infantry if they find them, but due to the 1,000 meter range, it does leave them quite vulnerable to 1,200 meter range engagement, especially moving into phase B. As you can see, that's now where we are, and yeah, it does leave it as a sort of under threat. Also, due to the 1,000 meter range, it can't like fire position as effectively at AT guns. So this 1,000 meter range AT gun here, it hasn't been spotted, which means it's going to have a chance to shoot at the guerrilla before the guerrilla fires back. On the top side, the IG-18 that's going to be continuing to engage the rifles here. The M5 gun came into that tree line and got spotted almost immediately, so that's a problem. P-38 Lightning though has been invested in, and that's going to be smashing the IG-18, pinning that down. But here comes a Focke-Wulf to clean up that kill, because the P-38, that should go down very quickly. Not a very strong aircraft in terms of its airframe. M1 gun, it has got the better of the guerrilla, as you can see, and this is exactly why these aren't very good. AT guns can just take advantage of their lack of range. I think what would be a nice buff for the guerrilla is if it either cost less or if it had a little bit extra range. Like even if it was just like 1,100, right? So it fits that sort of in between. It gets taken advantage of still by 1,200 meter range units, but can defeat 1,000 meter range units. So that would be a quite nice place for the guerrilla to be. Either way, Stug 3 is now coming down to the bottom side to counter the M4A1 that is approaching. But the Pak-38 might be able to get the better of the M4A1 if it goes on return fire, but it does not. Does manage to hit with the first shot though, which is quite something. But here comes the HE of the main gun plus the 50 cal, which has the potential to pin down the Pak-38 quite quickly. But the Pak-38 will get off a third shot. Another bounce. Yoda getting pretty lucky there, I feel. But look at this double Stosstroop pushing through this orchard. That's quite something. Going to be chewing up these rifle squads. But in comes the P-47 Thunderbolt. That's going to be pinning down the Flakvilling. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of that was, if there is not going to be another aircraft to follow. But this Focke-Wulf is going to have to be careful. It's under fire by that Bofors and doesn't want to be picked off by an enemy fighter at any time soon. Now the Pak-38 actually didn't lose a single man as the M4A1 pressed forwards. But as you can see, these Stosstroop and Stern Pioneers will have to be careful with this tree line area. It's just been smoked off by both of those squads. But preventing the infantry from getting in here is pretty important for Pathology, because that means that the M4A1 won't be able to aggressively push through. Now meanwhile on the top side, the IG-18 has stayed alive and has continued to engage units on that top side. So Pathology managing to do quite a bit of damage to Yoda's advances, but honestly Pathology is the one that's going to want to try and push back at some point, because otherwise he's just going to remain at a points deficit for the rest of this game, and that's really not a place he wants to be. Also, as the game continues, the artillery might start to get the better of the 17th SS, since the 17th don't seem to be using any Nibelwerfers just yet. And that may be something that really affects the success that Pathology has throughout the rest of this game. And the Stug is moving up here, and if it can get into a position in this orchard where it can just be ready and lined up with this M4A1, it can most likely get the kill. Doing it this way is a little bit risky, but still, 3-star veterancy, shouldn't miss, doesn't miss, but the M4A1 replies with an internal fragment, and that Stug is going to want to get the hell out of there. Nice smoke use by the STOS troop. Having those STOS troop follow the Stug 3 wasn't so bad after all, and that Stug's just going to want to get the hell out of there and wait for some supply to come in, possibly near this 81mm mortar. Yeah, perfect placement of that Opal Blitz. Cool. On the top side, Stug 4 looks like it was under pressure by the M5 gun briefly. Now the IG-18 though, that's in a bit of a dodgy position. It's kind of in the open between these trees, and that may allow the M3 scout car to take it out with the 50 cal. However, Yoda's going to be backing off. And this has been a very interesting game where I feel that Yoda's played overly conservative, in that he's definitely been afraid of Pathology's units when he generally hasn't needed to be. Now an FK-18 has been brought in on the top side by Pathology, so relying on that as opposed to the Nebelwerfers, P-47 Thunderbolt's going to get taken down by the now 2 Focke-Wulf 190s. FK-18, that's going to be trying to counter battery the 107mm mortar. So there's 2 of these FKs on the field. And I do quite like these FKs because they do have a lot of ammunition and they do just fire constantly at targets. But the only issue with them is they are very inaccurate. So as you can see, the 107mm mortar here it's going to take a while to kill that, and most of the shots aren't even going to land anywhere nearby. Now what we can see down on the bottom side is Yoda's coming in with more infantry once again. These are going to be more rifles. And honestly, if rifles keep coming in like this against STOS troop squads, then the STOS troop squads will just straight up lose out. Because the number of men in like a rifle squad is 12, right? And they cost the same amount as a STOS troop squad. And I would say strength of squad is like the main counter to STOS troop. Just because if you have like, say, 2 units of rifles like this fighting off against 2 units of STOS troop, generally the rifles will just win because the STOS troop can't kill the rifles quick enough, even though they have more HE. So if these engagements continue like this, I feel like Yoda's going to get the upper hand on this bottom side, especially in this orchard area at least. And that may give him enough to push a +1 once again. Now IG-18 has gone down on the top side. Both troop have tried to make a little bit of ground, might end up killing off the rifles, but will have a limited amount of MG ammunition left. Focke-Wulf 190s, they're coming in for the strafing run onto the M5 gun back here. And they should kill that off, yeah, nice and easy. But here comes Gabby. Can Gabby get onto the back of these 2 Focke-Wulf 190s? There's going to be another P-47 coming in as well. This is a pretty dangerous position here actually for Pathology, because if the Bofors gets involved, yeah, the Bofors in the mid is going to force that Focke-Wulf to fall back. Good micro by Yoda to get Gabby on the back of it. And now it's going to be a 2v1, which should allow the other Focke-Wulf to be shot down. Yeah, this is really unfortunate. Gabby's going to come in onto the back of that and shoot him down. So 2 Focke-Wulfs down on the side of Pathology. Yoda's managed to make quite a bit of ground on this bottom side, but now under fire by the FK and the 81mm mortar, which has pinned quite a lot of this infantry, and the Ranger leader really isn't close enough to stop these rifles from surrendering at least. So it looks like they may just do. They may just surrender to the face of these STOS troop. Yeah, there they go. Now the STOS troop are going to be working their way back towards the rifles. That Pak-38 finds the kill onto the M4A1. Nice kill indeed. Here comes the P-38. That's going to be bombing the Stug 3. Interesting choice there. Lucky that 25 HE power bomb didn't actually blow up the Opal Blitz munition. That was very close to doing so. But yeah, this Pak-38 has actually done work. It has no veterancy, but once again takes out an M3 scout car. Taking out the M7, it's taken out an M4A1, it's just taken out the M3 scout. Really, really nice job there by Pathology with that Pak-38. It's just probably Yoda's fault though for not spotting that sooner, and having it taken out the M7 the first time, he should have had a squad move down there and take it out. Now we're going to be seeing these BMWs come in from Pathology. Interesting choice, because they aren't armed. I think although they have like an MG modelled on them, they aren't... Oh, they do have the machine gun available, okay. But still, not going to be the best unit, quite simply because they can be killed by infantry, which is quite something. But I guess it does reveal these rifles in the tree line here, and now this BMW is going to be trying to make a little bit of ground. They do affect the front line, so that is something that you can use them for. Nice kill by the 107mm mortar, is going to finish off that Pak 38, but might end up killing his own Ranger Marauders if he's not too careful. Ranger Marauders did get on top of that Pak 38. But now we're seeing Pathology get quite aggressive on this top side. The double Stug 4 is actually starting to work out quite well against Yoda's skeleton defenses on this top side. The Ranger Marauders here have just been taken out as well. And honestly, these BMWs supporting the Stug 4s is quite a nice combination considering what he's up against. And if he can get very aggressive with these motorbikes on the top side, he will reveal that there isn't much here. And that is the perfect position for these motorbikes to be in. The other thing is, like, with pinning down these rifles, the motorbike can just drive up to those and surrender them, since there is no command nearby, so I'm hoping to see Pathology do that. And Pathology's really started to get the better of this game. He has a ton of units on the field, as you can see, and his conservative play has kind of led to Yoda being more aggressive, and he's kind of punished him for that. Like this IG-18 that's been all the way back here, I questioned its placement early on, but it has really helped defend against any aggression that Yoda's pressed through this tree line throughout the game, and it's really come to a head on that bottom side whereby Pathology can hold the line with just a couple of units. Now the Stostri will likely fall to the Bofors and the Ranger Leader, so that was a little bit of a waste. But all he needs is a couple of Panzergrenadiers to cover that from now on, and he can control that orchard area on the bottom side of the map for the foreseeable future. Now there has been an M5 gun brought in. Yoda going to be trying to use that to take out the Stug 4, but the Stug 4 does manage to retreat in time. Stug's going to fall back in the mid as well. I'm a bit sad that this BMW didn't go for the surrender onto the rifles. That is quite an obvious surrender to an experienced player, because it doesn't have a single star of veterancy. But goodbye to that bunker. It just got absolutely demolished by the flak-filling. But the BMW there, that's going to be killed off. That poor bike just got absolutely ruined. But a +1 still for Pathology, and he's starting to count up the points towards Yoda. So a very sort of slow, methodical match from both players so far. Really sort of building up their pushes and then being very careful with how they use their units and making sure that they know what is there with recon before going in. I actually do quite like this playstyle. It's quite nice, but it's just generally quite slow, and that makes for less exciting moments than usual. So that motorbike finally getting a little bit bored, pressing on through, just driving up that main road, gets taken out in the end. P-38 Lightning, that's going to be coming in to bomb the IG-18. Should be able to take that out with a single strike, although the Flak 36 might have set those bombs off target a little bit, but not quite enough. P-38 is going to be absolutely fine. Potential that gets shot down by the flak-filling actually, but no, it's going to be surviving for the time being. P-38, that came in and tried to rocket the bike, and it survived. That is quite something. That bike, pretty lucky there. If one of those rockets had hit, it would have been toast. Interesting engagement between the Stug 4 here actually and the M4DD. But P-47 Thunderbolt, that's going to get absolutely baited into an engagement with the Focke-Wulf 190. Focke-Wulf's going to be able to shoot that down. That was a big mistake there by Yoda. No reason for that P-47 to be in that position. But really nice artillery comes down and takes out the M5 gun in the mid. The M1 gun, however, is going to take out one of the SPWs that was bringing in some recon. Focke-Wulf 190, that's going to be able to get out of there. I don't think Gabby's going to be quick enough to catch that, and also the 2 Flak 36s should stop Gabby from getting that kill anyway. But here, it's all about the engagement between the Stug 4s and the M4s. Now, in my opinion, the Stug should get the better of the M4s, but it's going to have a hard time penetrating the 12 front armor of the Rhino. Saying that, there's a bailout, and that's job done. One of the M4s taken care of. Now the other M4 is going to be continued to be engaged by the other Stug 4, but that one is quite panicked due to the fire from the Bofors and the M4 previously. M1 gun, that's going to be coming up to try and take a shot at the Stug 4. Ends up firing at the one above, reveals its location. That's now fired upon by the Flak 36, and with that being pinned down, I think Pathology can get quite aggressive here. The Rhino was cleaned up, and on the bottom side, with the introduction of those 2 Panzergrenadiers, these rifles aren't lasting too well. You can see this IG-18 again, managing to hit these rifles as they come through the tree line. It's really, really nice to see. Starship take out the rifles there. AT guns being taken out by artillery. Again, methodical play here from Pathology is actually giving him the lead during this game, and he will win in 12 minutes and 25 seconds if he continues like this. It seems as though Yoda's just running out of options. He's trying to use AT guns to counter the push of the Stug 4s, but every time they come in, Pathology is on the ball with taking them out, with using recon and his artillery. So, yeah, smart play indeed. See the Panzergrenadiers, they're coming in on this bottom side. We're going to be seeing a couple units of recon on the top side. Another artillery piece, that's going to be another FK. I was really hoping that that was going to be a Nebelwerfer, but it's not. And now P-38 Lightning comes in to try and rocket the Stug 4. I think it was successful in doing so. Not going to be shot down by the Focke-Wulf though, just a little bit too fast for that. Now Gabby has come in. This Focke-Wulf really needs to be microed into an engagement with Gabby, because otherwise he is very dead. Just get himself over the AA now, and he just might be able to get out alive. Yeah, there we go. Nicely done. So this +1 from Pathology should continue for the foreseeable future, unless Yoda can really find a way to grab ground back on the bottom side or counter the Stug 4s on the top side. Because there's now 3 Stug 4s, and when these Stug 4s really start to build up on an open range engagement like this, they're actually really difficult to deal with when you don't have any like 1,200 meter range tanks to use on your side of things. Now, Yoda should have access to, I think, 3-star M10s, which can potentially deal with Stugs at max range, but we haven't seen one of those come in yet, so there's a very real opportunity that he doesn't even have them on his division, and the M5 guns are his main choice for anti-tank in general. But the trouble is with M5 guns, because they have 14 AP at 1,200 meter range, they struggle to penetrate the 12 front armor that the Stugs have, unless they can find, of course, side shots and so on. Now the use of his xylophone is actually quite an interesting choice. If he can pin down these Panzergrenadiers and then advance upon them with some rifles, he may be able to just surrender them all and then move through. But as you can see, Pathology is on the ball. He's bringing in the SPW-223, and that is a very quick, very fast command unit that can save the day here, potentially, with all of these Panzergrenadiers having to fall back. But 56% territory is pretty decent here for Pathology. And just the spacing on these Stugs is really nice. He's got all of the support following up as well. Does manage to take out the M4DD there with that shot, really nice. Yeah, so really well constructed push. He's got the recon up ahead, speed troop, and he's got his line of tanks, the Stug 4s. This one's accompanied by command as well. Then he's got the IG and Pac-38 coming forwards as well, and he's keeping this flak filling close on the top side, as well as the flak 36 behind to provide the anti-air. So this is a very, very difficult to take care of by Yoda, especially when he's trying to bring in units one by one to solve the problem. So for example, these M5 guns, whenever they're coming in like this, they are just becoming targets for artillery, and that is a problem. This P-38, that's going to be forced back after it does come in and try and rocket on the top side, I believe that was. Or was it the Stug 4 that it targeted? But either way, the Stug 4 is under pressure by the M5, but as you can see, it is actually having a hard time getting through that front armor, which is something that I mentioned previously. That xylophone strike was quite a bit off. Look at that. Just right in the middle of all of the units. That really needs to be targeted differently. Ooh, the ME-109 G2BR-21 coming in with the engagement onto the M5 gun. Does take it down to 3 health. Now the ME-109 G2 is going to want to get away from Gabby. Gabby's going to come back round. The flak 36s have run out of ammunition, so this could be a very dead ME-109. The flak filling on the top side has also ran out of ammunition. This is something that Pathology will need to rectify sooner than later, because this P-47 shouldn't be able to fly over his lines like this at all. Now meanwhile on the bottom side, the Panzergrenadiers have recovered. They're going to be fighting back against the rifles, and this T-30 is having a hard time getting into line of sight and providing covering fire. And that's something that Pathology can definitely play around on this bottom side. There's no reason to be in line of sight this T-30. There's no reason to be on like the edge of the tree line, for example, when he could just allow the rifles to push in and then kill them with the machine guns as they get closer. The rifles should be able to clean up this motorbike here. The trouble with those recon units, and why I personally don't prefer them, is because they can be taken out by infantry like that. But I think there was a point where, when he did bring them in, Pathology, those bikes were really, really nice, because if they'd played a little bit more aggressive, especially on the top side where this rifle unit was, if he'd driven that forwards and sort of found that surrender, he could have made a lot of ground just off those recon bikes, and that is not something you see very often. Now P-38 here, that's going to get taken down. That's one of the bombers taken care of, but IG-18 did die in the process. These Panzergrenadiers, they have got the better of the rifles, but the Ranger leader is going to stop those from surrendering. Gabby is going to be flying over the top of this flak filling, so the Focke-Wulf 190 might be able to get the better of Gabby here, which would be really, really nice kill for Pathology. Can the Bofors save the day, or even the 50 cal? I think the Bofors are dead now, so nothing to stop this Focke-Wulf from finding the kill, but Gabby's going to get away from a Focke-Wulf. That is not something you see too often. Another Focke-Wulf on the field now, or in the skies, should I say. But this P-47's got onto the back of that Focke-Wulf and shoots it down. Now it's a one-on-one. Interesting air engagements, very fun to watch. Stern Pioneers, they're going to get the better of 2 units of infantry in the mid here with the help of the artillery. And now the ME-109 going to be coming down onto the bottom side, hitting that. Will allow the Stug to get aggressive and press onto that T-30. The T-30 you can see is going to fall back into line of sight to the Stug due to the way the ME-109 hit it. So I think that just in general there's been some really nice plays across the board from both players. I think Yoda just in general has been sort of more conservative than Pathology. But I think Pathology has just done a really good job of conserving his units. Allowing the Stug 4s to stay alive this long is really important, because you can see how much they are supporting other units at this moment in time. Now the Focke-Wulf did manage to shoot down the P-47, so that was a nice kill. But yeah, Yoda definitely had his chance, I think, towards the end of Phase B to really make some serious ground on this bottom side, especially when Pathology was getting really aggressive with the Stoss troop. Like, that was the chance to really bounce back and gain that ground on the bottom side. On this top side, I think the lack of the M10s, the 3-star M10s, has definitely hurt his opportunity to kill these Stug 4s. Because the Stug 4s work really well against these M4s, and you can see again that other M4 is going to go down there against the Stug 4. And Pathology is even finding himself a +2 at this point, with 3 minutes and 55 seconds left on the clock. It looks like Pathology has sealed the deal in this game. Yeah, Yoda definitely running out of steam. No more infantry coming in to support this front line, so possibly has run out by this point. Pathology still bringing in more Panzergrenadiers on the bottom side. And yeah, just in general, I think the infantry management of Pathology has been slightly better than Yoda, allowing him to have this availability advantage into the late game. He did rely quite a lot on the Stoss troop, but in the end they did find quite a few kills, so it wasn't the end of the day when he did lose them, or lose some men unnecessarily. Yeah, really just methodical game from both players really. Pathology, however, getting the better of Yoda over time. Stug 4 trying to engage the M1 gun, doesn't quite get pinned by the P38. And it looks like the ME-109 might end up shooting that down as well. Actually, maybe not. With Gabby coming in, the ME-109 makes a run for it, and it looks like that was just in time. Another P-47 Thunderbolt going to be coming in, but the ME-109 G2BR-21 gets on the back of that. Is that going to be a dead P-47? It is. And the rocket strike comes in, kills the infantry as well. Double whammy, lovely jubbly. That's what we like to see. Really nice air micro there. 59% territory lead. A little bit more aggression on this bottom side might cause a complete breakthrough down here, because there is like one AT gun standing in the way of all of these units pressing forwards. And I guess, you know, value for money from units definitely goes in favour of Pathology throughout this game. And in an extended duration game like this, that generally means that the person who has traded better throughout will win. And that's definitely what we're seeing. Now the M4A1 here, it has managed to track wheel destroy the Stug 4 as it comes forwards. That was a side shot, and it does find another side shot to claim the kill. So that's one Stug 4 down. But still 3 left on the map. And I'm pretty sure that Pathology will have more at his disposal. Yep, another one coming onto the field. I definitely do enjoy using those Stug 4s in certain matchups. Look at that. Another M5 gun came in, taken out immediately by artillery. Xylophone's going to be trying to pin down the Stug 4 on the bottom side. Should manage to do so, unless the rockets don't quite hit the mark. The Stug 4 is going to be able to continue to be aggressive. Might want to wait until these Panzergrens find the M1 gun though, because there's no reason to get too close to that M1 gun and risk your Stug 4 from being killed. It looks like Pathology is going to see that. Never mind, that was just auto. Fall back. That Stug 4 though definitely needs to turn around. Had its rear armor facing the M1 gun. That was not good. Thankfully the fallback mechanic turned that tank around. But a +2. And 63% territory, almost 64, yep, 64 with the salient on the bottom side. That's going to be 10 seconds left on the clock. Wow, what a marathon of a game this has been. Congratulations to Pathology. Wins the game after the full 40 minutes with a score of 1,339 points. 3,635 kills to 1,915 losses is definitely the reason why he won. I don't think either player really had a coherent strategy in this game. But they still managed to make it work in the end, or at least Pathology did. Yeah, he utilized that good KD to really make ground in the late game. The M5 gun, it didn't find that Stug 3 kill early on. It just ended up killing a bunch of infantry due to its placement. I don't think you really do need an M5 gun on the mid road in Colleville, because it's very unlikely that a player is going to push their tank right up the middle of the road, like middle of the map. Like, unless you're getting mind gamed completely, there's no reason the tank should be there. So you don't need an AT really to defend that. Like an AT on the top or bottom side would have been a lot better earlier on if you were going to bring the M5 gun in. The 107mm mortar was quite important. That definitely won some engagements against infantry and killed off that Pak-38 there. Gabby was used well to kill off those two Focke-Wulf 190s. Really nice air engagement. But later on really sort of faltered in that area, allowing Pathology to get the better of him in the skies. We go to the losses. You can see Pathology, Pak-38 on that bottom side, killing off the M7, the M4A1 and the M3 Scout was really, really nice, considering it's unvetted. Focke-Wulf 190 took out P38 and the M5 gun, but look at these FKs. FK took out the two M5 guns and the Bofors, really nice kills, and then the Stug 4s, again, paid themselves off nicely. M4DD, M5 gun, Stug 4 took out two M1 guns, M5 gun, M4A1. The 12 front armor of these Stugs is just really, really nice and allows them to get those AT guns where other tanks would not. P47 Thunderbolts go down there to one Focke-Wulf, again 2-to-1 engagement, really nice. And another Stug 4 getting a few kills on the bottom side. Just in general, these Stug 4s really paid themselves off well, and the Stoss troops, at least trading 1-for-1 is good enough to pay themselves off, but when they trade 2-for-1, that's even better. So yeah, a slow and steady game from Pathology, but eventually won the race. There you have it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.